Welcome to Must Know ADU Strategies for 2023, presented by ADU Resource Center. I'm your host, Danny Johnson. The goal of this broadcast is to create an informational hub for homeowners planning an ADU project of their own. This will be an ongoing webinar beginning in January of 2023 with special guest speakers from our industry so you can get a variety of tips and information to strategize your very own ADU project. Some of the topics we're going to cover are updates and tips for financing solutions, information on the CalHEPA ADU grant, and new legislation laws for ADUs and more. ADU Resource Center began building custom and tract homes in California and Florida back in 2010. In 2020, new legislation changed ADU restrictions for most city ordinances in California. We saw this as a new opportunity and wanted to pitch in and help affordable housing solutions. That's when we changed our DBA to ADU Resource Center and never turned back. Our company is now ADU specific, meaning that's all we build. Since our transition, we now have over 300 plus ADU projects in various stages of permitting, planning, and construction. We are well on our way to becoming the fastest growing and largest ADU builder in California. Southern Californians have chosen ADU Resource Center as their first choice for project concept designs, architectural design, structural engineering, Title 24 engineering, low impact development planning, plan submission, revisions and retrieval, licensed general contracting, landscape and hardscape design all under one company so we can effectively manage the entire project from beginning to end and to streamline better communication, coordinate smoother handoffs between divisions and teams, and reduce mistakes with more eyes on your project. And now, let's begin our program. Hey everybody, welcome to the show. To my right, we have the Director of Operations and the driver of the Winnebago, Sean Sarabi, and to my left is Mike Koromokos, one of our ADU specialists, and working the sound booth and lighting and all the sound stuff is Vic down there. We have a special guest tonight, Meredith Munger-Stowers from the Stowers Group, and we're going to be talking about financing and a variety of other things. Here's the topics of the show tonight. So we're going to be touring some projects that we've done recently so that we can start with the fun stuff. I think the format we did last month was pretty good. We got a lot of good feedback of, let's look at the finished product first. Let's work backwards and see how we go about building all that stuff. So I think what we'll do is let's start with you, Sean. What do you want to show us now? You want to show us some products, some ADUs, right? In their final form?
That's right. I got 4 different projects I want to show you guys. So let's start off. Let me see if I can share my screen and then we'll get started. All right. 1 second here. Everybody see my screen?
Yep.
Looks good.
Yes.
All right, guys. So let's start off with this project. This is a project in Glendale. We're actually based out of Glendale, so we get a lot of projects here. This is a 530 square foot detached ground up ADU that we built. This is the side yard of the ADU, actually the front yard, I guess. So this was ground up. We also added square footage to the main house and added a pool to this project. So let's take a look. So I'll go a little bit slowly and I could talk a little bit about every picture. So in this picture, you guys can see that they have nice pavers in the front. In this case, most ADUs that we build don't have closed eaves like this with lights, but this one's a little bit above mid-level.
The main house had sealed eaves, so I think what we wanted it to match.
He wanted to match, exactly. So that's kind of what we did. Large windows, and let's continue. Here's the side. So this is a pool. This used to be their backyard. A matter of fact, there used to be an oak tree here. It's actually very hard to remove oak trees. And somehow one of our designers was able to convince Glendale City to remove this oak tree in exchange of.
I'd like to know how they did that.
Yeah,
That's a
exactly.
protected tree, but I know, well, that's a different story altogether.
Well, we had to plant some new trees, which we did,
Right.
and it worked out just fine. So we added this pool with turf, looks very nice. One thing you guys can see here in the back of the ADU, there's no windows, and they intentionally did that because they wanted to create some privacy in case they rented out the ADU and the kids wanted to play in the backyard and the pool. So let's continue. Another shot. We also installed this vinyl fence. As we're general contractors, usually we build ADUs, but a lot of times the homeowner wants additional things like a pool, a front yard. It could be landscape, hardscape, any of that. So
We should mention also the landscape and the hardscape is the very last thing that we do. So clearly the ADU was well finished before we even tackled this. So,
absolutely. Let's continue here.
and I believe this project was done in 2021.
Yes.
And
So
then we only recently finished the pool.
yes, because we started on the plans with the pool later.
Right.
That's a decision that the homeowner made at a later time, and that's why we built it later. But it came out really nice. They're very happy, and now it's complete.
That's a really common thing. What we like to do is get this ADU built, and then we'll take a look at the landscaping afterwards. Once you have a new building on site, it's a little bit different than what you might expect, and you might make different decisions. Like in this case, the pool wasn't an initial thought. Otherwise, they would have planned it in advance. The pool idea came later.
Yeah.
So,
Good
Yeah.
point.
So just
Good
wanted
point.
to talk about this photo real quick. This is the side and basically the back of the ADU. That's where we have the electric panel. This specific house had fire sprinklers. So the city made us install fire sprinklers for the ADU as well. That's where you see the equipment and the pool equipment in the back. So we hide everything back here. So this is the interior. Like I said, it's a 1-bedroom, 530 square foot ADU. A lot of times when we build these ADUs, because they're smaller than a normal house, we try to use light colors, large windows, and high ceilings to make it feel a lot more spacious. And that's what we did in this case.
So while we're looking at this picture, let's just talk about the ceiling. So most roof lines or top plates are 8 feet tall. So that provides a crawl space up there.
Right.
Since we're using mini splits, not a typical residential HVAC system, we don't need all that ventilation going up there. So if we don't need the crawl space, we can now contour the ceiling to the roof line, and that's how we can create a larger space.
Absolutely. And you actually mentioned a mini split. A lot of ADUs are built with like the big boxes that are sticking out from the wall that are the mini split. But this specific one, the homeowner decided to install a ducted mini split. So that ugly box doesn't stick out. It looks a lot cleaner. And it's very efficient, to be honest with you. Here's another shot.
We should point out also, this is a home office. So in 2020, when COVID hit, a lot of people were relegated to working from home, working remotely. So he knew he was going to be working from home. He wanted an ADU, but he wanted it as an office. So this really is sort of an office / guest house for his friends and family when they come over. It's not a rental, it's for his place of businesses. That's why when you look at the furniture the way it is, this is actually the waiting room before you go into the bedroom, which is now his office.
Right. So here's a kitchen. Very nice, very simple. He has a waterfall countertop with lights underneath, very clean. And this kitchen actually happens to be from IKEA. And IKEA actually has really nice stuff.
Surprisingly good. I mean, when he said he had a credit and he wanted to use his get his kitchen from IKEA, I kind of cringed, but man, it looks nice. It looks
good.
really good.
as a matter of fact, I come from the kitchen and bath background. I was an interior designer for 17 years and I had to sell against IKEA. I know how good IKEA cabinets are because I had to figure out ways
Interesting.
to get around it. But
So
yeah, beautiful cabinet.
we had a couple of clients that said, look, I too want to go through IKEA. So the contractors say, okay, let me give you the dimensions. You can go down there and they'll design the kit. So then the kit will fit like a glove, providing the dimensions.
Correct. So just to go back here, so they have vinyl floors in the living room, but once you get to the kitchen, we installed tile floors. That continues all the way to the restroom, as you guys will see next. Let's continue here. Standard side appliances, electric stove. A lot of ADUs nowadays. Homeowners choose to do it in
Full size.
Yeah. And this is the hallway. As you guys can see, the space for a washer dryer. Because this is an office, they chose this 2-in-1 small little washer dryer,
That'll
but
change.
that will change eventually.
He's not gonna like that very.
So a little bit higher end bathroom, I would say, tile throughout on the walls. And this is a floating vanity with a mirror that has light around it. So you spend a little bit of extra money on it, but it looks really good.
I think if you spend the money in the kitchen and the bathroom, that's, if you're gonna do anything fancy, that's where the eyeball will really pay off.
Absolutely. Another shot of the shower. Let's continue. So this is the bedroom slash office space now.
Right.
Like again, it's still vaulted in the in their bedroom or office with recessed lighting. So you don't want anything hanging down. This way it looks a lot more spacious. And this is another shot of the same room.
You know, one of the things about the LED lighting is that we eliminate floor lamps. So if you can eliminate lamps on the floor and stuff like that, it comes with a dimmer switch. These LED lightings, it's so bright, you could do a surgical procedure in there or slide the dimmer down and then put on Luther Vandross and it looks pretty sexy. So at least you have choices, right? And you remove the whole idea of having floor lamps.
So there's two things missing in bedroom technically. One is a closet. As you guys see, there's no closets
Right.
over here. And there is no door.
Right.
So we eliminate the door because we want to turn it into an office. The main house had tile roof, which is a little bit more expensive than a shingle roof. It's much better quality, it looks a lot better. So that's kind of what we did. As you guys can tell, they match exactly, it looks very good. One thing that's pretty cool about Glendale actually is that you are allowed to build an ADU only 5 feet away from another structure.
Versus 10 feet.
Los Angeles is 10 feet. In this case, we were actually closer eve to eve. I think we're 2 to 3 feet, which was a situation I remember when we were designing this, but somehow again, we got away with doing it this close. We can ask the designers next time how they got away with it, but
I can tell you this, sometimes a little booze, little something. Don't show up empty-handed to the city planner's office. You never know what you'll get.
I like to take a strategy of it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission.
there you go.
So if you really want something, let's try and get what you want. And then
Right.
maybe you can.
Right. So yeah, this is the front. It was raining this day, so the wall is a little wet down here, but came out really nice. We did an addition to the house, and they look like they're matching exactly. The homeowner is very excited, very happy about this ADU. We got a testimonial from him and the permission to take photos and show you guys. Let's go to the next project. Next one is Stu Willard. This was also a project in Glendale. This one is an 800 square foot, 2-bedroom L shape. Standard size ceiling.
8 foot.
8
8
foot,
foot.
8 foot ceilings. Initially, when we started on this project, there was in the plans, there was a lot less recessed lighting, but throughout the construction, the homeowner decided he wanted more, so we went out of our way to make sure he got that. Pretty standard size living area. They wanted additional cabinet space, so we got them that.
That's a nice open room. That's
yeah.
a lot of space in there, and that's a long kitchen countertop, so there's a lot of space there for storage and countertop stuff.
Yes, standard size appliances, but this one happens to be a gas stove. And this one also, which is pretty unusual, is a ducted mini split system again. The next two I'll show you guys is a little bit different. Let's continue. Here's another shot, different angle. This is one of the restrooms, pretty standard finishes, nothing special. They have the hookup for the washer dryer over here.
Most of these finishes that we're seeing on some ADUs, surprisingly, you can get them at Lowe's or Home Depot. You don't have to go to a fancy supply place and pay extra. These are things that are readily available. They look great. They look wonderful.
And everything you see here is pretty standard, so that more or less comes with our standard construction projects. Here's one of the bedrooms. One thing that we also do to make it feel more special is a lot of times the closet doors, we turn them into mirrors, and that also makes it feel a lot spacious. Let's continue here. So this is the master bath. little bit nicer finishes, nice glass shower doors, tile in the floor, and tile inside the shower. Here's a master bedroom. And this is the exterior. So this house actually, this was all dirt, so we installed the pavers again. Looks very similar to the previous project that you guys saw. It's an L shape. And because this is a ground up detached unit, City of Glendale required solar panels. So that's why we installed these solar panels on this project.
They did a nice job tying it in, though, unifying the main house and the ADU with this outside barbecue and courtyard area. It looks real nice.
Absolutely. So I'll show you this next photo. So over here where the barbecue area is, which we also built, was a sunroof. So we had to remove the sunroof to create space for the ADU. And we had to close off this wall on the right, and we also restuccoed the main house to match the ADU. So now it looks like it's matching. It looks really good, honestly. Again, homeowners super excited. They let us come and take photos to show you guys. There's the barbecue area. Another shot of it. Looks very good.
So check out those solar panels. That's going to be something that will be required on all ground up new construction. Because you're going to have to add solar panels like that, it might be a great idea to use electric appliances. That way you're taking advantage of the solar electricity being generated that you have to put on your ground up construction.
Another thing that we should probably point out is in 2023, California said no more natural gas with construction moving forward. So a lot of ground up construction is not going to have gas. Now, it doesn't mean you can't do it with your ADU if you have gas at your primary home. But if you're thinking forward, they're looking at sustainable energy, LED lighting, solar, these types of things. So I think they're thinking that the natural gas is a little dirty, not good for the environment, all of the above. California is a green state. So just an FYI.
They were trying to do that. That actually got shot down. But there is Title 24 requirements that you have to have electric hookups for all of your appliances, regardless if you bring in gas or not. But just as a heads up, like Danny's saying, you will need to, the state is going towards electrification on everything. So this is going to,
including cars.
Yeah, just everything. So they're stepping away from natural gas, which could mean more expensive prices for natural gas. It's a great idea to be all electric ready,
right,
in any case.
So just so you guys know, at the very end, we'll do Q&A. So write down all your questions if you have any questions about specific
Post
projects.
them in the chat area if you're thinking about something and you want us to address it. We'll try to address as many questions at the end as possible. The format of the show, for those of you that are arriving, we're going to show the finished product of what an ADU looks like when it's done. And then we're going to work backwards and then go, how did you do it? How did you finance it? How did you do the plans and the engineering? And then how did you achieve the concept to even get started? So we're going to work from the finish line backwards to the starting line if you've just joined us.
Okay, so this one is a pretty cool project. This one is a 600 square foot, 2-bedroom, 2-bath unit.
600 square foot, 2-bedroom,
2-bath unit.
It's impossible.
With plenty of closet space. I don't know how they did it, but they did it.
So that square footage is pretty surprising because a typical apartment is a little bit bigger, about 750 to 850 square foot. So it takes some ingenious planning to be able to create a 2-bedroom, 2-bath in that tight of a space.
Right.
So another thing that's pretty unique about this this specific unit is the height of the ceilings. Danny, can you maybe, I don't remember the exact height, but
it's okay. So here's a trick that we like to do when we're using a limited amount of space. In her case, to do a detached structure, she didn't have much space because in between the main house and the ADU is going to be a swimming pool. So we couldn't encroach on that area, so we had to leave that open. That left 600 square feet. So to make a 2-bedroom, 2-bath feel open, we raised the ceiling. And in her case, she said, can we do more? Can we also raise the walls? So go back, Shara, go back to the living room picture where we can see this is pretty cool. She wanted an 11-foot wall. So the wall, as you can see above the kitchenette over there, by the way, it's a kitchenette. It's not a full-size kitchen. I'll explain to that in a second. But the wall itself is 11 feet, and then the rise in the vault is an additional 4 at the peak. So it's a 15-foot ceiling in there, and it does echo like a cathedral. So it may not be something that everybody wants to do, but if you have a small space and you want to make it feel open, including the bedrooms are 11 by 9, so they're 1,000 square feet or 100 square feet rather. It feels huge in the bedrooms, as we'll see.
Let's continue. Nice
I'm
wood
sure that
door.
echo will be taken care of once it's furnished on the inside, but
I can't wait to see
while
it.
it's open,
It's
So one of the reasons they chose a very small kitchenette is because the homeowner, the main house is actually an Airbnb unit, and ADUs you're actually not allowed to rent them out less than 30 days at a time. So she's gonna be renting this out to, I think, traveling nurses, short-term rentals.
Right.
So because of short-term rentals, she felt like she didn't need a big kitchen. She was limited with space, so this is what she created.
now you know why, right? It's the best kept secret ever.
That's why.
So the traveling nurses, if you have a home and you're near a hospital, the traveling nurses get a housing allowance of about $2,000 a month, and they're relegated to staying in Holiday Inns or Hampton Inns or Holiday Inn Expresses, and they hate it. So this person who built this house, right, this ADU right here is very, she's an opportunist. She designed this exactly for the nurse program because the common area is small. It just needs a place for them to do their laundry, make food, and then they're going to disappear into their rooms more than likely. But she's going to get 2 nurses in there for $4,000 a month. She advertises on the hospital billboard. It's fantastic. So her model, her business in this ADU is strictly for the nurse program. I think it's fantastic. And I think we've been copying that idea and letting people know, because if you have to pick between college students or nurses, which one's going to pay more, which one's going to have less repairs and problems. So I think it's a fantastic
Yeah.
program.
and you get good turnover in your renters, so you can increase the price to market value. As opposed to having somebody.
Well, if
stick
you
in your
mark it
street
on the
something.
hospital billboard that you've got an ADU, I mean, your phone's gonna blow up. Everybody's gonna go, wait, when you move out, I want to move in, because they hate living in the hotel with a bunch of noise on top of them and screaming people on each side of the room. So it's a fantastic deal for everybody.
Right. Now, in this case, she has standard size washer dryer. And I think this is standard size refrigerator,
The
but
refrigerator is 30 inches, that dishwasher is 17 inches. And then the range is 26 inches. So it's narrow, and the ADU appliances for kitchenettes are narrow so that you can create more cabinet space. Now, does she need more cabinet space? Possibly. I don't know that I would have done a hood range over that. I might have put a microwave with cabinets all the way across, simply because that window back there, we can see evidence of the neighbor fence behind there. I don't know that I would want the window to see the neighbor's fence. I'd rather have the cabinets, maybe put a skylight instead, and we could have maybe helped her get more storage space. This is an afterthought that we did, that she's realized that maybe she could have done better. So this is when we take our time during the planning and development stage.
right. This is a smaller bathroom, as a Jack and Jill. 2 doors, basically, one from the bedroom, one from the living room. And she chose gold trim.
It's gold anodized hardware, and
That's it.
you watch HGTV, it's absolutely on its way back. I don't know if it's for everybody, but I talked to her about it, and I interviewed her on video, and she says, oh yeah, it's the next big thing. I did watch HGTV, and it is coming back. You know, I don't know if everybody's doing it, but it is a kind of a neat little look.
Definitely interesting choice of a shower over here. As homeowners, you guys get to pick your own finishes. So that's definitely up to you what type of a shower you want. It's pretty nice. I like it. Here is one of the bedrooms. Earlier, remember, we spoke about the mini split. So this is a regular mini split sticking out of the wall. They're really efficient. They're quiet. They work really well, and they're affordable.
And you get to cool each room independently. You don't have to run the AC in the entire ADU. You can run it just in one bedroom while you're sleeping at night and not have to cool the living room.
Yeah.
Very efficient.
Here's one of the walk-in closets from the bedroom. Again, plenty of space. Let's continue. This is the hallway that takes you to the master. So this is the master.
Yes, and so she wanted a bathroom in a shower in one and a bathtub in the other one. And I like the fact that she used a shower curtain in here rather than a shower stall on the bathtub. So it looks like that you can maybe get a glass of wine, put it down there on the throne while you're taking a bath, and you can enjoy yourself rather than have to deal with a mildewy shower stall.
And those shower curtains, they can easily be changed in between tenants, and it's a low cost option. So if you're
Right.
looking to keep your EDU budget low, that's a
Right.
definite savings. You can save about $1,000 there.
Right.
One thing that she did that the rest of the wasn't in the other two ADUs you saw, she had laminate floors throughout the whole house. So it's the same floors going throughout the same.
Yeah, she didn't tile the bathroom floors just as a cost savings.
Here's the master. Again, plenty of space. Again, we use the mirror doors for the
And
closet.
notice the tall ceiling in there. So again, this is an 11-foot wall in the ceiling. So if you have a small bedroom, I wouldn't say it's small, it's 100 square feet. So it's 11 by 9, but it sure feels huge, and it's not huge. So that's how she manages to make a small space feel bigger.
Now, Danny, tell them about, this happens to be one of our showrooms, right?
Well, there's a spoiler alert. So we have an opportunity coming up that we think that she's going to be renting it soon. So the problem with ADUs is there's no showroom. And when they're done, they want to put a family member or a tenant in there to start doing what it was built for. In this case, we have to catch it and take pictures just before it's done, and it's almost done, but not quite. So we may have an opportunity to do a tour. We usually pick a Saturday morning between 9 and 2 p.m. and then they kick us out. This is the look of the exterior. So obviously you can see that the landscaping is the very last thing that we do, but there's going to be a pool there. And the last time it was at the property, the pool contractor was there. So she's already getting that started. Anyway, so if you are interested in looking at some of the projects that Sean's showing right now will actually be available. Not everyone, but I think one or two. If you're interested in coming out and having a look, just type your name into the chat box and tell us your name. We have all your information on the registration for the webinar, so we'll get in touch with you. We'll let you know what weekend. It's either going to be this coming Saturday or possibly the following Saturday, but it's going to be mobbed. So what we have to do is kind of make an appointment list and try to do it in waves so we don't overwhelm the homeowner.
So we're almost at the finish line with this project. But one more thing I wanted to point out is this privacy barrier or fence that we built between the main house over here and the ADU in the back, as you can tell. This way it gives them separation and
And this is Los Angeles.
This is Los Angeles. All right, let's go to the next one. This next one is the last one on my end.
Now, the other two were in Glendale and these two were in Los Angeles. So this one we just got done looking at, and then the next one, which is really super cool. I really like this next one a lot.
Yeah. All right, so this was a small one. It used to be a one-car garage that we added square footage to, and it's still a studio and only 374 feet after the addition.
All right, so before we get started, let's look at the outside of that. That was at one time a one-car garage in downtown Los Angeles in Old Town. And when you walk inside it, you just cannot believe what the conversion might look like. But there's where the garage was. It was actually narrower than that. We expanded it outwards towards the pool.
Yes, so the exterior and this one is a little bit different. It's wood panels. Again, this one has nice closed eaves. Looks very nice from the exterior. Not your typical ADU. And then inside is not typical at all either. Let's take a look. So again, vaulted ceilings. It's a pretty common theme.
It's more than that. She has an exposed beam. So that exposed beam is what sets the tone for the whole thing. There's no crawl space, so it doesn't require to have an 8-foot ceiling. So if you look at the slant of the ceiling on the left, it's actually slightly smaller than 8 feet.
Yeah.
It's a little over 7 feet, but it's got a lot of big open windows and stuff. But go ahead and take a tour through.
Yeah, one more thing with the skylight. So they have a nice skylight bringing a lot of natural light. It's also electric, it's powered electrically, so you can close it and open it with a remote.
And then you look at the floor, it's concrete. So there's this, the look that they're going for is an industrial look, which is kind of a new trend out. Well, it's a new trend, but it's a current trend that people like. They wanted to go to vintage, kind of a vintage retro style cabinets, which is the lacquer finished cabinets, and then the subway tile on there. The range and the stacker range is obviously a vintage look. You recognize that from Brady Bunch, don't you?
Sure.
And the vault in the ceiling adds the charm, but it's really a nice studio.
Yeah. Again, this is another shot just from the other side, barn doors to the closet space. Looks very good. And the subway tile continues all the way into the bathroom, but the shower itself has different tile with the little glass barrier, I guess, for the water not to spill out. You can see how small it is compared to the main house, but it looks very good.
Right.
All right, that's it for me.
So that's a kind of a look of what a finished ADU could look like. So when you're looking at your own backyard and you're kind of going, I wonder what this can be. I have a segment coming at the end of the webinar tonight where I'm going to show you how to determine what is the most appropriate shape for you and how to get started. But I think what we want to do is let's put the fun stuff up front where you can kind of visualize of what it's going to look like when it's done. So we have the final product, we have construction, we eventually have to pay for this thing, and then we have to have financing, right? And then we have architectural plans, and then the original scope of work. How do you determine what's going on? So I think what we're going to do, for the sake of time, I don't want to deal with the construction right now because that could be a whole webinar in itself. But I do want to skip over that segment and go right to, well, how does one pay for all this sort of stuff? So we have Meredith joining us right now. And Meredith, I know that one of the things that everybody is wanting to know is we know that interest rates aren't as good as they have been over the last 2 or 3 years. I'm going to help you with this segment, but I want you to kind of just improvise and talk about what things that you're seeing out there in the marketplace. How are people deciding to finance their projects? What's the best option? There's many projects to choose from. And do you have a particular product that you like best of all?
I do. Actually, I
Yeah.
personally think
hear.
huh?
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I personally think that the timing is perfect. Fannie Mae officially projects that rates will be back down to normal levels for 4.3% on a first mortgage in like 8 months. And that's perfect because that's about how long it's going to take to get through designs and permits. I personally really like the HELOC second mortgage as a perfect type of product for you because they can be interest only. My goal through construction is keep your cash flow reasonable. I don't want you paying on a whole big loan. I only want you to pay on what you're using at that time. Keep your cash flow really going. Have a reasonable payments and in order to build it. And then when we're done building, we'll give you a complimentary fixed rate second mortgage or whatever you want. It's a matter of comparison. So I think the timing's perfect, actually.
Seeing some people, we've had quite a lot of people. As a matter of fact, one of the things that I'll comment on is almost everyone that we talk to has their own personal reason for doing an ADU, whether it be to add more square footage to their property profile, just to add value. They need a little bit more room. Maybe a family member is going to come live. Maybe mom and dad or one of the kids are going to be coming live back home. Or it could be for a monetary reason where they need a supplemental income, whether, sometimes people just need a little something to improve their lifestyle rather than going out and getting a second job. They can add an ADU and it's passive income, right? So whatever the reason is, I don't think we have to twist anybody's arm on why they want to do it. Everybody universally wants to do it. What we're discovering, though, is loans are not that easy to get right now. And it could be there's a sign of the times. A lot of the things that we're seeing on the news with some of these banks being closed down, I don't know if it's a coincidence, but the underwriters are screening people super hard right now. I have a
Mhm.
theory and I want to kind of show it and maybe have you comment while we're talking about it, okay? Let me know when everybody can see my screen.
Mhm.
Okay. So one of the things that we noticing that ADU loans are not as easy to qualify for as they were just a few short years ago. And I think that if we kind of look and see why, it does make sense. So one of the things that we know, it wasn't too long ago, higher than interest rates. You know, rates are not the only reason why people are sometimes getting scrutinized right now. You know, consumer debt has skyrocketed over the last 3 years. So I want everybody to kind of turn back your memory bank and think about when COVID started. What we saw was when COVID first started, the feds were worried about consumers' confidence in going and hoarding money and not doing their normal job of spending money. They didn't want to bankrupt the economy, so they lowered their interest rates, and that's how a lot of us got the interest rates that we got. During that process, they wanted everybody to feel confident about what's going on. So as they lowered the interest rate, they wanted to kind of promote consumers to go living their life. Even though we're quarantined, some people were laid off, they were sent home, and they were learning to work remotely. What they wanted to do was make sure that the economy was stable and we didn't bankrupt the country. And it worked because the people went out and they bought a lot. So they bought new homes, they bought new RVs, they bought new cars, they got boats, they got this, they got that. And everybody goes, wow, with rates this low, we should go enjoy ourselves, not stay home and worry, because the COVID, the thing lasted several years. So why stay home and mope around? So they went out and bought. One of the things that they also did is they spent a lot on credit card and revolving debt.
Mhm.
So one of these stats that we found recently is that the average household has about $17,000 in credit card debt. Now, what does all this mean? Well, when we're trying to figure out financing for an ADU, and the banks are now scrutinizing, some of them are even getting turned down. These are good customers with equity. They're getting turned down because of debt to income ratio. That means they've got too much money going outward because of all these things that they went out and bought, plus their credit card debt, which is between 21 and 26%. The average household pays 500 plus a month on credit card debt. So here's what they're looking at. If the monthly outgo is too high, and now the underwriting is very, very scrutinized. A lot of people are not getting the answers they want. They'll go check on pricing for a loan. They go, oh, the payment's way too high. I can't do it. I can't do it. So they'll put on the brakes to their ADU project, which is going to save their day because it's going to be a moneymaker if they don't build it. But I think what we have to do is maybe look at a bigger picture when you're going out and shopping for your loan right now. Maybe the HELOC is a good thing, but a HELOC, remember, it's just a home, it's just a credit card tied to your equity, but it is a credit card. And as the banks are scared, they're scared of all the credit card debt that's already out there. So I want to tell the people on the webinar, if you've tried to go to your own bank, or you've talked to one of our financial consultants and the conversation didn't go the way you wanted it to go, there is another solution. And the solution is simply this: make the underwriters feel better about the risk, because if all we're going to do is add a HELOC to get the ADU, and we add it on top of all the other stuff you've already got, okay, all we're doing is compounding the problem. So we want to reduce the risk. You want to lower the risk and make sure that the bank says, hey, if all I do is give this person a loan, there's a very, very good chance they could default. What's the first thing we don't pay if there's trouble? A credit card, right? Well, a HELOC is a credit card, but we always pay our mortgage, correct? And if we're not idiots, we'll pay the car too, because we got to get around. We got to get to work. So the mortgage and the car payment are a lock. But the credit card debt is something that people will sometimes default on, and a HELOC is default. That's why the underwriters are nervous about it. If you want to change that around, the remedy for this is to consider a debt consolidation before you go asking for more credit. The underwriters will love you, because if you're eliminating debt, if you're paying off small credit cards loans, if you're paying off a small auto loan, and you're making yourself a better risk. Meredith, I know you do HELOCs, but you do fixed seconds and debt consolidation loans as well, correct?
I absolutely do. And we
Okay.
can do those in phases to achieve your dream.
All I
So,
want, all I want is everybody to know you have a choice. It's not just a one and done. You don't have to just say, I got turned down on a HELOC. Well, that's because you were trying to add more to what you already got. Maybe we should have Meredith do a consultation with you and find out how much small debt with large monthly payments. So at the top of the list, if we can eliminate as many monthly bills with large payments as possible, the bank will
Yep.
love you. You may not have to take just a HELOC, maybe a fixed second, which is a close-ended loan. It's not a revolving debt loan. And maybe if rates do continue to fall, Meredith, and things get better down the road, maybe this time next year will be the perfect time to do a bundle and refinance that existing first and this consolidated second. Right?
yeah, that's exactly right.
So
That's exactly what Fannie Mae is predicting, and so are so many others. We're already seeing rates fall already.
I wouldn't not get the ADU, because the ADU is going to create passive income. That's going to be your key to financial freedom. What I would do, though, is I would make sure that whatever loan you're applying for, the lender is happy to see you. If you're just asking for more revolving credit card debt, they may run for the hills, and that may be why you're not getting the loan application approved that you like. Pay off the debts, add the ADU to it. You're going to create a reason for them to want to approve the application. In the process, when you build the ADU, your property profile will go up because of that new added square footage. You'll create passive income when that renter moves in, and look what you'll be on the right. You'll be happy little campers over here, right?
Yes,
So
it's very true.
I just wanted to share that and think and say, hopefully you agree with that philosophy of why people are sometimes getting the negative feedback they're getting from banks, where just a couple of years ago, they were getting a big bear hug from the banks, and it's not as easy as it used to be.
Yeah, absolutely. But the fact is that many people, if we just wait, 3 months and the rates come down, you're going to qualify. So, people there are other people doing good things, and it's just a matter of rates coming back down. To give you a sense, all HELOCs are based on Wall Street Journal Prime. Literally 6 months ago, Wall Street Journal Prime, which is the rate at which the Federal Reserve lends to credit unions and banks, was at 3.65. Today, it's at 8.25. That's how fast interest rates went up, and it's just stupid. Already, believe it or not, I have HELOCs that have negative interest rates because they're already predicting that rates are going down. First mortgages are coming back down. Everything's going back down to normal. And that reflects too on prices on ADUs. Man, did we see inflation with wood and steel and cement, and now they're all back to pre-pandemic levels. So I have tremendous confidence. What's really exciting is that even if interest rates stayed this high, your ADU is still going to cash flow. So that's what's especially exciting. It's going to put your house to work for you. Finally, you've worked hard all of these years. Let's put your house to work for you and make some money off of it.
Do you have any interest in talking to our customers?
I would love to talk with your customers. We're the largest ADU lender in the state. I don't give referral fees. I don't get referral fees. We work with you guys because you guys are the best of the best in LA. And it's true. And by the way, you're among the fastest permit guys in the West. So that's especially cool.
How can they reach you if they want to have a private consultation with you over the telephone?
And by the way, I see Letty Gomez on there. Letty, you are a doll. I'm always glad to see you. We've been working for a couple of years, getting through different things. I'm going to put in my calendar invite. My calendar is wide open. And you can book a time directly on my calendar that's convenient for you, and we'll go from there.
Vic, is the chat open for them to post any questions? I don't see a single one yet.
I have a lot of questions,
You do? I don't even see them.
but they're posting it directly to me. They need to post it publicly for you guys to see.
How are they posting them directly
I
to
think
you?
they're posting it to the ADU Resource Center account, which is going straight to Vic.
That's fine. Maybe you can read them.
Wait, Vic, they're going to you and not to us? That's my new
Oh,
sound
that's
effect.
terrible. That's terrible.
All right, so listen, so Meredith, you've got your link up there. So let me tell you guys a little bit about this link and why I like it. So rather than say, hey, when are you going to call? Hey, what time are they going to call? I've been waiting all day. I don't know. So if you click on the link, you'll see it's a calendar, and the calendar has a day and a time. So you pick your day and your time, and that's exactly when you can expect her to call you. So you don't have to be waiting around and guessing. And she doesn't pick the day and time, you do. So I think it's wonderful. With that being said, Vic, did we post our link for somebody if they want to have a free consultation with us? Can you post that? So as we go through the program, I encourage you, it's free, doesn't cost you a red cent, but what you want to do is maybe start off with a video call so we can look at Google Earth, look down at your property. That's my segment towards the end of the program, which we'll go through that, but it's super fun and it's easy. And if you click on the link, you can schedule a free consultation with us. It takes about a half hour or so, but we could get a lot done. And you can get almost all the heavy lifting of the questions, answers, and answers that you need to figure out what is the project for you, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, Meredith, I just want to say, is there anything else that any words of wisdom or advice you want to add?
Yeah, Doug just asked a great question privately. Can you use income from the ADU to qualify, like the future rental income? Yes. Do you need to have equity in your home to have a HELOC? No, you can have just purchased it. I have a construction HELOC. Most banks do not do the loans I do. So it's easier for them to tell you you're not qualified than it is to say, we don't have the loan for you. We've got the loans.
Okay, all right. That's for you. I pushed the wrong button, Meredith. I mean, I hit the laughter instead of the applause button. Thank you, Meredith, for joining us as always. How you like those sound effects? We just got them.
Dang, you guys are on fire.
Last week, people go, I can't hear you guys. I can't hear you guys. So Vic went out and got us these little mics. So now we sound like Joe Rogan, don't we? We sound professional, and we've even got our own little sound effects. There we go. All right. So thank you, Meredith. Stick around. And if you have questions for Meredith while we're in the webinar, just type them to the right side under the chat meeting section, and she'll answer as many as you can online. And then you're always welcome to call her privately on the phone. I think let's move on. So we've talked about what does the ADU look like when it's done with Sean. We know how we can probably finance them with a little help from Meredith. We'll get to the construction side another time because I don't want this thing to turn into a marathon, but we do need to know, Michael, how does one go about getting the plans and permit? Because before we can do construction, we need a building permit. What is required? What do we need?
So this is exactly what I'll be talking about today. So my name is Michael, and I'm one of the ADU specialists. I'm one of the guys that will come out to your home and talk to you directly about your project, explain to you what you can and can't do, and we'll talk about pricing, timeline, and I'll also help you navigate through the designing and permitting process and through the construction. Now, today, I'm going to be talking on behalf of the architectural design team and the permitting process. All right. So what does it take to create a set of permitted plans? The first step that we're going to be doing is to do some preliminary research. Then we'll do the design work. Once the design work is all set and approved, then we move on to the architectural set and engineering, and then we start the permitting process with the city. In the preliminary research stage, the We're going to look at the details of your home. We're going to be looking at the specific zoning requirements within your city. Did you know that just in Los Angeles alone, there's 88 different cities, all with different zoning zoning. There's different planning departments that we have to work with, and all of them have really unique twists on their rules. So the state set in a starting point, which is the state guidelines are what everybody has to follow. Every single one of these little cities in between, they all get to have their say in tweaking it to suit the local jurisdictions. So after we do that preliminary research and making sure that your ADU is going to fit within those local jurisdictions, then we do site research. Within that site research, we're going to do some detailed work. We're going to check for easements, which are going to be setbacks on your property where we can and can't build. We're going to calculate your maximum build area to be able to find out how we can make sure we take advantage of all of the space available or meet your needs. We're going to look at CDO requirements. There's a lot that goes into this overall research, and the architectural team is the ones that dig into this and make sure that everything is going to fly through permitting.
Can I add something? So here's the thing that I think a lot of people underestimate. It's not something that you can self-serve unless you A, know how to do this, and B, like it, because this is not easy stuff going back and forth with the city, but it's absolutely necessary, because if you don't do this, we can have all kinds of problems with plans and permits, and you can be tied up for 2 years in planning and not sure why. So it's important that you understand, if you want to quarterback it yourself, go right ahead, help yourself, but it's not easy. And I think we have 330 plus projects in various stages of planning, permitting, and construction. So not only do they recognize us, they know our paperwork is clean. So we're going to get the fast track because we've got a relationship with them down there. And I think it's just going to be beneficial.
You know, it's pretty cool. We're starting to get calls. People are saying that we were getting referrals from the city.
Yeah.
They're giving our information to the clients that will go out there to ask questions, and they're calling us saying the city asked them to call us.
That's great. That's great.
I'll tell you, when I go out to clients' homes, one of their biggest concerns is I might not be the first person that showed up and given them some information and an estimate on their project. I might be second, third, fourth, and they'll share with me what their biggest problem is. And one of the biggest problems was they keep getting different information from everybody. And that really comes back down to this preliminary research stage. If we take a look at just Los Angeles alone having 88 different incorporated cities with different rules, how could that person really know everything about your specific property and know it on the fly? The reason that we have these troubles is because there's just so dang much information. Now, we have an architectural design team that really digs deep into this prior to you creating a permitted set of plans to make sure that everything will go through smooth. Okay.
Excuse me, Mike, Danny, can you raise Mike's mic?
Yeah. Yeah.
So after we're done with the site research, then we're going to move on to researching some of the geological components of the area. It's really important that when we build this ADU that it's going to stay stable. It'll be engineered well to last a lifetime and more. So we're looking for specific areas: high fire zones, liquefaction zones, methane zones. You probably haven't even ever heard of these things, but this is something the architectural team definitely needs to dig into, and we need to identify this and discuss it with you, because sometimes it requires a little extra engineering in order to make to build a structure within these spaces. Just to dive into one of them here, liquefaction. Liquefaction is when you have a soil type where the particles in the soil, the sand in the soil, they slide in between each other in the event of an earthquake, or when it gets wet, when the soil is filled with water, they can slip and slide across each other, creating settling and potentially amplifying the effects of earthquakes. So we need to know this in advance. That way we can design to be resistant to those particular problems. when you're in a zone that has that particular problem area, that problem geological standing, then we will do a soils engineering project. We're going to dig into there, take a core sample of that soil and test it. Not every space is going to need this, but it's something that we definitely need to look into and identify early. All right. So after we've done all of that research, the next step is to create a site plan. We're going to come out to your home. We're going to take some detailed measurements of your property and note any existing structures on your property, where your trees are, where your utilities are, and put that all together on a CAD drawing and get you prepared for the fun part. The fun part is designing your ADU. So once from the start, once you say, yes, let's work together, this initial process takes about 1 to 2 weeks, and then we'll be ready for you to either come into our office or we can do virtual designing over Zoom or Google Meet. I personally prefer everybody come into the office because I think that interactive design is critical. Being able to talk back and forth and share different ideas with 3D renderings is amazing. It speeds up the design process, it speeds up the decision making, and it sure makes you feel confident in knowing what you're going to get. All right. While we're doing it, we're going to be laying out some creative solutions, and I've got two different solutions for one particular ADU that we did. This was a garage conversion. As you can see the garage right here. That was the old garage, and then we added on this section of the property right here. This was the client's idea. They said that I want to add 2 bedrooms and I want to keep the garage on the side. And I really kind of wanted to keep it rectangular, which was fine. We built this out, but I and the architectural team as well, we looked at it and saw that there was a little bit of an issue. Like if we have this hallway space here, it's not really great living space, and ADUs are really you have to effectively take care of the square footage, right? You don't want to lose square footage to a hallway if you can avoid it. Plus, this bedroom is a little far away from a bathroom, and we don't want to run down the hallway when we're right after you take a shower and dive into the bedroom. So we came up with a different alternative solution like this. This created a very interesting exterior design of the property. It's not one rectangle. Sometimes rectangles look a little bit boring on the outside. And you're going to see with the 3D view how when we design live, you'll be able to see this 3D view and understand how it's going to look.
What's cool about that, if you think outside the box and we get away from just straight edges, right? There's some pretty cool courtyard opportunities right there on
Right
the
here.
exterior, that you can really, no, I was actually saying on the exterior of the ADUs. So for landscaping and coming up with little private courtyard areas and stuff, that's one of the things I think a lot of people overlook, but this design has many opportunities for it.
Right. As you see, the living area and kitchen is going to be isolated from the bedroom area. So now sound is a little bit more isolated there. And when we designed it this way, it's no longer just a rectangle. We created more exterior surface area of the ADU, and with more surface area, we were allowed to use more windows. So this is going to be substantially brighter. As you enter, you're walking into a large open space here, and that comes out to an exterior courtyard. Like Danny was mentioning, you can put a little table right there and have some outdoor dining space. Plus that allowed for a larger window into the master bedroom. But take a look at those bedrooms. It's a huge master bedroom, large walk-in closet. We've got a secondary bedroom. They're in close proximity to the bathroom. And this really solved a lot of the clients' ideas, what they wanted to have from their ADU, but the initial rectangle wasn't really serving it well. But creative designers solved a lot of those problems and created something that was unexpected, and they were pleasantly surprised, and that is definitely the one that they chose and were executing on. This project is currently finishing up its permitting phase and will go into construction very soon. Here's a quick little video that we'll show. This is a video of what it looks like as we're designing in 3D.
See, the neat thing about this is that we can see into the future. We can see potentially what it's going to look like before we begin. And at the editing stage, this is valuable because if we see something that we're not sure we liked, and then we can see it in 3D. I can tell some of the customers that came in and designed, they go, oh, that looks way better than I thought. Yeah, let's go with that. Or the opposite, we have time to edit and fix it before it's being built. So there's no surprises.
Yeah. So during this design phase, we're going to have opportunities to choose some of your design elements. For instance, here we have clear story windows above the bed. This is a great element to add when you want to have a little bit of privacy. Maybe this is aimed at a neighbor's fence and you don't really want your neighbors peeking in. Having these clear story windows, they're high. So they're generally set at around 6 feet tall. That way, nobody's peeking up and over, but it's letting plenty of light in, and it's letting you see the scenery outside.
Right.
Here we have another shot with these. When we talked about this earlier, the raised vaulted ceilings. Vaulted ceilings is something that we'll be discussing during the architectural
I
design.
noticed something just now. Your cursor is not lined up with our screen. So
Okay, well, ignore that.
It's okay. I just going because I was looking at it going, why did I not see what you see? Okay, so I'm looking at your computer and it's right, and on ours it's wrong. So okay. Never mind. Don't worry about it.
These are a couple more elements that we'll be looking at. First off, on the left picture there, we have, if you notice, all the plumbing, all the water usage there is all on one side. That's a great way to incorporate value engineering. If we can keep all the plumbing on one side, it keeps the construction cost reduced. So during the design phase, we can be wise to make it so that construction is a nice price when we start to build.
Manage the budget.
There we go. On the right side, we're noticing the electric cooktop, right? So if we have to put in electric outlets for every one of the appliances, and if you're going to be one of those ADUs that has solar and Title 24 requires us to put the outlets, might as well go electric. And if you want, you can omit gas completely, keeping your costs low. Or if you say, hey, I really enjoy cooking with gas and I want to have that, there isn't a rule yet saying that you can't have it. You might want to get your ADU
I will say
as soon as
this.
possible, right?
An electric range will burn food just as much as an open flame will. It'll burn it, and it'll burn a turkey in the oven as well. They work. And then an electric dryer will dry the clothes. So it's not necessary. If you want gas, you can get gas. But if you want to look for ways of saving money, particularly if you're going to have to put a solar system in, maybe electric's the best way for you.
Yep. And exactly, if you're going to do the solar system, why not? It's already paid for. And I'll tell you from personal use, the new electric stoves, the induction electric stoves, they are much more precise than gas used to be. It can boil water faster and it can dial down the temperature very precisely. You can boil chocolate or like just melt chocolate perfectly without having to use a double boiler on this. So really, it's something to consider. I know a lot of people have reservations about not having gas.
I know that we have an opinion one way or the other. It's just for your information.
Of course. So moving along, this is something that's really popular right now, and that is on the top left. That is a curbless shower. You notice how there's nothing for you to trip over as you enter into the shower. A lot of these ADUs are designed for our parents to move in and for them to be able to age in place while in close proximity to us in home, where we can take care of them, where everybody can gather together as a family. And this is a great way, a great time for you to design the ADU in such a way that you can incorporate nice accessibility features that don't have to look like they're accessibility features. Doesn't that look gorgeous?
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Michael, I got to give you a shout out on this because the number one reason for seniors going to the emergency room is falls. And on top of this perfect ADA compliant bathroom that makes it easy for seniors, you've got fixtures that look like they're super dainty and all that, but they're actually perfect for somebody to grab on and they won't fall off. Super cool.
There's a trend that we've noticed, and it's not something that you would think about right offhand, but it's maybe the first time in 85 years that 3 generations of families are all living on the same property, right? And the ADUs are making that possible. So how wonderful is it that grandma and grandpa could have breakfast with their grandkids every morning and up until the time that they won't be here anymore. And then the ADU obviously will be repurposed into a rental or something like that. The point is that 3 generations living on the same property is more prevalent now than it has ever been in 85 years.
That's very true. And you know what? This is actually my very favorite time of the ADU process, is doing the design phase. This is when you get to have a lot of fun choosing some unique elements that maybe your house didn't have. And maybe, you know, I'm really shocked. Sometimes, and not even sometimes, it's becoming more and more prevalent. A lot of people will come in with this idea that I'm gonna build this ADU and I'm gonna rent it out and create some income. And you know what? They fall in love with this design phase so much, they're picking everything that they've ever wanted in
That
an
they wish they
ADU
had in the main
that they
house.
wish they had in the main house, that they end up moving into the ADU and renting out the main house.
Absolutely, absolutely.
It happens all the time. So once we have all of these elements put together, then, and you say, yes, I love it, the design's gorgeous, it's got everything that I want, what's the next step? The next step is we're going to create an architectural set of plans. This is a full set of plans. It's that big fat roll of plans that you see. And this is a quick slideshow of what an architectural set of plans looks like. I'm not going to bore you with every single slide, but they're going to have a lot of details.
You know, the important thing to understand is that
I'm going to go back to this one
there's,
too, because I really liked, I thought it was gorgeous. This is a 2-story ADU, 600 and this one was 690 square feet. Another one of those really small ones that we fit 2 bedrooms and 2 bathrooms in, and 2 stories. This one is just completing its construction, and I know the homeowners, I really wish we can get this one as a showroom, but I know the homeowners are eager to move in. This one was designed specifically for the homeowners' parents to move in, so they're they're really chomping at the bit to move in.
right.
Yeah, we'll definitely get some video of this.
I
Maybe for
hope,
the next
yeah.
webinar, we
That'd
might
be
be able to show
wonderful.
this one. Yeah,
Are we that close?
or that close.
Wow.
We're just doing a little bit of landscaping, doing a concrete path. So
We at least got to get a video.
access. Yeah, that's wonderful. But this one's a fun one. So after we have the full architectural set done, the next step is structural engineering. Structural engineering, I'm not going to bore you with going through those slides because the structural engineering on this particular project was 63 pages. Right. So a lot of work goes into creating a full set of plans that's required by the city in order for us to get these things permitted. The next step is going to be Title 24 plans. This is required on all ADUs in California, and it's going to make sure that we have energy efficiency built into the design. It'll require special doors, windows, lighting has to be done correctly. For instance, when you enter and exit a kitchen or a bathroom, it has to have an occupancy sensor. So when you walk out, the lights automatically turn off. It will influence the insulation, the roofing materials, even going as far as making sure that your faucets have to have a certain water flow. This report is going to be required on all plans, and it's something that we take care of in the architectural design process. Next, this is LID, low impact development. Any ADU that is built from the ground up, that's not a new building, will trigger a low impact development plan. And it's going to calculate the water runoff from your roof and collect it into rain barrels and have that water be able to be used for irrigation. The goal here is to not let all of our rainwater run off into the street and be wasted. We want to put it into the groundwater and collect it back later. So anything over 500 square feet, we're going to have to do this. There's a couple different ways that we can accomplish it. One of the lower cost ways up on top right, that's a rain barrel. And then on the top left, that is a planter. Planters do cost a little bit more, but they look a lot better. There's different ways that we can solve this. Down below, we have permeable landscaping. So what looks like a concrete driveway, that concrete is actually water permeable, and it will run water down into the groundwater from there. So different ways that we can achieve the goals of LID, but just know that this is something that'll be required, and it's a plan set that we include.
And it's a law. I mean, we're a green state. California doesn't want any water going down the gutter, down the sewer. So we've got to use it and disperse it to the shrubs or lawn, right?
Yep.
It's the way it is.
This is something, a couple of these things that I'd like to note, because I'm the guy that goes out and I talk to all the people, and I get feedback from some of the other ADU companies that they might have talked to, and they generally will offer a really cheap price for your architectural designs, right? But the way that they're getting a cheap price is they're not including everything that is necessary in order to complete a full permitting process. They're only giving you a little bit, right? And then they're going to hit you with a little bit later. Oh, you know what? Now we got to do Title 24, and here's another bill. And no, now we got to do LID, and here's another bill.
A draftsman is not an architect, and an architect is not an engineer. In this case, we need all 4 sets of plans. And there's not one person, not even with us, that does all 4. We need a team of people. So when they get this, let's say somebody says, I can get a set of plans for X. Well, you got 1 set, but you need 4. What are you going to do about the other 3? So in most cases, it's not inclusive, right?
Yeah. So we include all 4 of those because they're going to be necessary on all ADUs, and we give it to you upfront because we like to be a little bit more transparent.
Yeah.
So what's next? These are some of the things that need to be done that are not part of every single ADU project, and what's not typically included in our architectural price. It would be as a secondary item. We like to identify it early and let you know about the upcoming costs in advance. I don't like them to be surprises. That's why we do the research first. That would be soils reports. So maybe your ADU is built on a hillside or in the foothills where you have different like soils that would need special engineering to accommodate it. Methane testing, Los Angeles has a lot of areas that has oil underneath it, and methane comes from those areas that had oil, or maybe in the past there was a landfill underneath you, and then and methane is generated from there. So we needed to make sure that we do methane testing on special areas that the planning department, when we submit these, is going to say, hey, you are in a zone that it has this particular methane hazard, and get out there and do a test. And you might have to do some special mitigation to get around that. Hydrology. Hydrology is generally needed whenever you're near the foothills, or if you're near a river, or there's not very many rivers in LA. The LA River doesn't look like a river, but you know what? There was rivers before that was all developed. So if you're in an area where there was a river, then you might have special hydrology. How water is collected into the soil is something that's really important that we take care of. If you're on a sloped property, we want to make sure that the water runoff during a storm doesn't flow and gather right next to the ADU and flood your ADU. We need to make sure that the stormwater runoff flows correctly off into a water permeable surface or into stormwater runoff, and not onto your neighbor's property. So we got to take care of that on special areas. Topographical surveys, those are surveys that identify the height of different points along the property. Generally, that's going to be necessary on hillside projects. Property boundaries surveys. If you're building at ADU, right up against the setback requirement. So almost all ADUs are going to have a 4-foot setback requirement from the property lines. But if you're going to build it right at 4 feet, your property line may not be right where your fence is. It might be somewhere else. Fences are built out of convenience.
And we have projects right now that it was dubious. We weren't sure if we had the property line because the neighbors' fences were they were inconsistent. So we weren't quite sure. Now, the worst possible thing you could do is assume you build your ADU, then all of a sudden the inspector says, no, you got to move it 6 inches. Right, so we may have to do a survey if we don't know the boundary line. It'd be safe to do so.
It's more
Exactly.
common than you think. It happens all the time.
Yeah.
Yep. So what we were going to recommend is if you're building right next to the 4-foot setback, then you're probably going to want to do a property line survey in advance. Don't wait for the inspector to say you need it, because the city won't necessarily say you need it. An inspector could say you need it, and that slows down the construction process, and nobody wants that. So if you want to avoid doing a boundary line survey, what you can do is position your ADU 5 feet away, or give it a foot of buffer between where you think the property line is or isn't, and then you might not need this property line survey. Finally, we've got MEP plans. That's the mechanical, electrical, and plumbing plans. Some cities require this, most don't. We've discovered that if you're building on a multifamily unit with more than 4 units, you're probably going to need MEP plans in your city. Also, San Bernardino counties, they're going to need MEP plans. But we'll identify this in the initial stage when we're doing our research. That way you'll know what's necessary. So now that we've got all that done, we've got a complete set of plans that we could submit to the city, and we're ready to start the permitting process. This permitting process, I've got a timeline up here because a lot of people want to know, how long is this all going to take? And that is a variable answer. Each of those 88 cities within Los Angeles and the other areas that we service, they're all different departments with all different staffing. Some of them are well-staffed, and a majority of them are struggling with keeping up with the demand of how many ADUs are being built. So in that instance, when we come out and discuss your specific property, we'll make recommendations on how long it's going to take for your specific city. But I'll speak in generalities about overall Los Angeles. I would say that your typical planning and permitting, if you're in LA City, you're probably going to see it done in about 4 months. Maybe it'll take up to 6 months, but we're seeing about 4 months lately, right? If we're in a city that takes a little bit longer, like Glendale, we've seen those go upwards of around 9 months, even up to a year. It really depends on the city and how impacted they are with their permitting departments, with their planning departments.
LA County is longer. We should probably
LA County is longer.
make sure that LA City versus LA County. LA City is a little bit more advanced. They have a digital portal which makes submissions very, very easy and fast. And I do think they have more staffing, whereas LA County is overwhelmed. I heard a rumor at one point, they had 2,500 projects at one time, and they had to outsource to both San Bernardino and Riverside County because of the overflow. So this is a result of COVID. So during COVID, you had 2 choices: watch Dr. Phil or build an ADU, right? Or renovate your house. So a lot of people started projects. And at that very same time, they were laying people off and sending them home to work remotely. So it couldn't have come at a worse time. So the demand went sky high, and the resources for help went down below. So they were mismatched. We're getting better. We're sort of past that COVID thing, but we have a high demand, because now with legislation making ADUs even easier to do, the projects, they're just coming out of the weeds now. Everybody wants to do one. So we still have a higher demand than we have a workforce.
Yeah. And I know it's going to happen because it happens every single time in the chat. There's going to be this question. Hey, but I thought the state says that the city has to approve my ADU within a certain timeline, right? Yes, that is the legislation. Is that a reality? No. If we pressure the cities, first off, they're really not able to respond that quickly. But let's say that you did pressure the city and you forced them to respond in that timeline. That doesn't necessarily, it forces the city to make a decision, yes or no, or decline your ADU, right? What we want is to be able to work with the city. So instead of them declining the ADU, we want them to tell us what they want us to change in order to comply with that particular item that they're concerned about.
Incidentally,
And we want to go back and forth and sorry, I lost my train of thought. Yeah,
we do that, not the client.
of course, yes.
So we're the ones that are going to be expediting their permit and the revisions and the corrections and the clearances, so the customer is not burdened with that task.
Exactly, exactly. But ultimately, we want to work as friends with the city. We don't want to be an enemy with them. That is going to help us keep our progress going smoothly. And also, if we rush them and they make a mistake, who does that mistake really affect? It's not, oh, great, it got approved and now I get to have something. Well, you know what? Maybe that was something that was supposed to be caught because it was a safety issue. And now your ADU is going to be built with a mistake. Who wants that? No, it's very important that we get multiple eyes on this. And the city is an extra eye on the set of plans to make sure everything is going to go through beautifully. If we rush that, who's really going to suffer? That's you. And also get this. Just because you have a set of approved plans doesn't mean that the inspector come construction, in the middle of construction, they can identify an issue and say, stop, send it back to the city. You're going to have to go and make this change before I'm approving you the construction to move any further. So just because it got permitted and you got it rushed through the city, it doesn't stop the timeline from being extended because you just push the problem further down the road. Ultimately, the moral of the story here is we want to work with the city, and although there is an increased timeline, we want to make sure that the permits are that your project is going to be built correctly, and this process ensures that.
What is the timeline, Mike, from for people listening? If they're going to just say, look, my project requires permits and plans and engineering and construction, lump them together, and what's the breakdown timeline typically?
So typically, I would say if you're in Los Angeles City, I would say about a year. That's a very reasonable
For everything.
Yeah, for everything. Yeah,
Okay.
for about everything. So you can expect the design phase to be about 6 weeks, plus or minus 2 weeks. You can expect the permitting timeline to be somewhere as soon as 4 months and as long as 9 to 12 months. But this is really city specific, and we will talk to you about that when we discuss your specific projects. And then the construction timeline is pretty darn quick too. We generally build our ADUs within about 4 to 6 months.
Okay.
Very good. So once we've got it submitted, the first step in the city is going to be plan check. Plan check is the city's review, and they're going to be looking for zoning compliance, right? They want to make sure that the parking is adequate for the unit in the main house. They're looking for residential lot coverage, setbacks, and completeness of the overall plan set. Right?
Regarding parking, what's the requirement on ADU parking?
That's a complicated question, right? You think it's easy because I'm sure that you've done a little bit of research and you heard that the state says ADUs don't require parking or only one parking spot. Well, what we have to do is take a look at how close in proximity you are to public transit. If you're within a half a mile of public transit, most likely we can have the parking requirement for the ADU waived.
Yeah.
Right. But and there's the buts, right? This is not a blanket, you get everything. If you're in a particular zone, if you're in a zone up near the hillside where it could be a high fire zone, then that fire department can take a look at this and say, nope, you're still going to need parking because we can't have the streets so crowded that we can't bring a fire truck up. Right. So this is something that is discovered during the initial phase when we do our first research steps to identify if parking is going to be required for your project. So next step after plan check is going to be building and safety. Building and safety is when they're going to be reviewing the structure of the ADU, making sure that it's going to be built in compliance with current structural requirements. And after that's checked off, then we go to clearances. Clearances are going to be the smaller departments within the city that all gets their say. First off, the utilities get to take a look at it. They'll do things like spotting where your meter is. This is something really common for ADUs is where you might build this ADU, you might have power lines going over the top of it, but we don't want to have power lines in close proximity to the top of this new roof that you're going to put in there. They might dictate that the power line needs to come down to the house. Your drop needs to be relocated, and they'll have a new spot for your meter. Next, we've got the fire department. Fire department's going to check, make sure that you're in compliance with all the fire codes. They'll most likely also have you test your fire hydrant, make sure that the flow rate is correct, so that when they come to put out a fire, they can get to the back of your property where your ADU is most likely at, and make sure that there's enough water to put that out. They're going to be looking at urban forestry. Some of the cities are really concerned about trees. And when we build an ADU in your backyard, you might have to trade a tree away in order for the ADU. And some cities are really particular about saving the trees. Pasadena, I'm talking to you. Right. Yeah. So they have about 4 pages of trees that you can't touch, where some of the other cities, there's about 4 trees that you can't touch. So this is something that we'll be doing during the initial research. We'll catch these in advance, but this is a clearance that the city's going to take a look at this and make sure that we're in compliance. All right. We're going to look at a covenant agreement. That's that agreement that you'll be able to rent out this ADU without being the owner occupant. That's a really special feature that you're getting right now, and that does expire. So it expires in 2025. Get grandfathered in now.
Right. Let's talk about it for a
Yeah.
second. So the 2025, the grant, not the grant, but the ADU ordinances and legislation was written through 2025. I don't know that it's going to be stopped, but it's not automatically rolled into guaranteed that it's going to go forward. So if you're thinking about doing an ADU and you're not sure if you can get it done before 2025, take your time, but hurry, because things could change at a moment's notice. We had this ADU grant and everybody was going, yeah, I want to get the ADU grant, I want the ADU grant. We did say we're going to talk a little bit about that grant, so we probably should. But it's expired. It expired in 2022. It's gone. It's over with. I don't know when the rollout will be, if there will be another one. Meredith, do you have an opinion on that?
I don't think it's going to happen. We're waiting for the legislator to vote on it in July and June. But you know what? Together, guys, we financed 90% of the grant recipients for my clients. And I have some really unhappy clients.
Yeah,
they had to pay taxes on that grant. They've got $7,500 in construction oversight. Man, some things are just not worth it, and it slowed down the process. So I am happy our clients get first dibs at that. But
here's
know,
here's the
be careful
takeaway
what
that
you
I
wish
see.
for.
The
Yeah.
people that heard about it said, oh, I got all the time in the world. It'll be there. I can do it whenever. And they took their time. The waiting list now is 8,500 plus people thinking that the train is going to come in, and it may never come in. So what does all this mean? Okay, so certain people got the grant, and there's quite a few that walked instead of running. Should we walk or run if we know that the legislation allowing ADUs is through 2025? I would say run. If you think you're going to do it, don't walk.
Yeah.
Don't be that person that waits till the very end and then tells us, you guys got to rush it
Yeah,
through.
yeah.
Well, the reality is,
Oh, how
you're
about
not
that
in
grant
charge
that
of that
just
rushing it
closed
through. The city is going to be overwhelmed, and they're not going to have enough time to complete it. And in order for you to get in within that, to gain the benefits of the ADU ordinance that's in place, your permits need to be approved and pulled by the end of 2024. They need to be in hand.
Yeah. And
So-
you have to have a loan to actually finance it. They're not giving out grants for 40,000 when the whole budget is, I don't know, 250,000, and you don't have financing for that. They're not going to give you money. So you got to get your ducks in a row.
Yeah.
Yep.
Correct.
Okay. So moving along, I want to talk about what city fees, right? Everybody wants to know how much, right? So individual cities all get to set their own city fees. There are some cities that are very affordable, and there are some cities that are very expensive. If I were to take a general case study, I would say maybe we'll look at an 800 square foot, 2-bedroom ADU in Los Angeles City. I would probably peg those city fees somewhere around $7,000 plus or minus $1,000 is what you'll pay to the city to get those permits, right? But now let's say we do another one and we'll look at a project in Pasadena that's 1,000 square foot, same 2-bedroom, 2-bath, but just a little bigger at 1,000 square feet. You can be paying upwards of more than $30,000 in city fees. I don't mean to scare you away, Pasadena people, but you know what? Your city is going to be a little bit more expensive, but the big advantage there is your ADU rents are enormously high.
Let's
Right.
explain though why though. I mean, one of the things that the city is doing, they're controlling density. They don't want overpopulation. They don't want a lot of cars parked on the street. And they don't want to take a beautiful city and make it cluttery. So what they're doing is they're raising the fees to deter anybody that's not sure. And only the most serious are going to go through with the ADU project at that price point. But we're doing quite a lot of Pasadena projects.
Oh, yeah.
That's not stopping anybody.
No. I absolutely love doing Pasadena projects. They're some of the most beautiful. The city is just gorgeous. Please give us a call and we'll talk about Pasadena directly, and I'll give you all the details how you can get around some of the certain extra fees. I know some tricks, and we'll talk about your project one-on-one. But overall, these city fees are something that you, ADU Resource Center doesn't take any upcharge or anything on this. Our architectural fees are independent to the city fees. You'll pay the city fees directly to the city. When these city fees come due is a little bit different from city. They're not due all at once. They're not due all at the end. Typically, there's a plan check fee of somewhere between $1,000 to $4,000. And that is going to be due about 2 months, or about anywhere from 2 weeks to 2 months after your plan check submitted. Building and safety sometimes isn't charged and sometimes is bulked together with other city fees, but you can expect that one to be about $1,000 to $1,500. Your LID is a small fee, around $200 to $500. Pretty much the rest of these fees here, with the exception of the final permit, are all really small. These are the clearance fees, right? They're all really small fees and they come towards the end. And then the final permit, that's at the very end, and that's where the bulk of the city fees will come due. That is going to be done right next to construction. So if you want to time your lending, that's a great time to get started with your lending, is just like right when the city fees start to come due, that's kind of notifying you that you're about a month to 2 months out from construction, and a great time to execute on your lending.
Yeah. Let me give you a sense. How much do you typically see those permits? You guys have the cost down pretty low. So at the very beginning, like for designs, what does that cost and what do permits cost?
There's another way of looking at it. I mean, if we itemize it, you can go nuts, just itemize it. But if we just took a range, a bulk, a bundle, if you will, right?
Right.
Depending on the scope of work of the projects, I would say if you're going to do plans and engineering and city fees and permits, you should budget somewhere around $20,000 for the startup of a project. That means in the first 6 to 7 months, that's probably your only out-of-pocket expense. I don't think we need construction money for a long time. So if you can swing those fees to get started, the clock doesn't really start ticking until we take our place in line. Until you drop something off with the city, we're just talking. So like if we go to Disneyland, that long line to get in, that's just to get in. Once we get inside, we have to stand in another long line just to ride a ride. What we're doing right now, we're still sitting in the car. We're not even in line. So at some point we have to decide, get out of the car, get in line so the clock starts ticking. But
I agree with Michael. Yeah.
Go ahead.
I agree with Michael though. So you got two choices. You can do a HELOC to pay for those fees, and $10,000 is like $80. It's nothing.
Nice.
Or you use your cash and then you wait for rates to come down. And because 98% of your money is going to happen at the point you're putting shovels in the ground, right? When you're getting your fees back. So it's a great point. There's two strategies, and some people who are a little, rate sensitive, the rates due on the HELOCs, they do float down, but some people aren't comfortable with that, and that's okay.
Right. Yeah. I think it's just, to your point, Meredith, we could do things in 2 stages. I mean, we have to do the plans and the engineering in 2 stages. Then we have to do the construction, the totally separate phase. Who's to say that we can't look at doing a project in 2 different phases? Maybe we don't need big money right away. So if you're
Right.
watching the webinar and you're really freaked out about interest rates, maybe you don't need to go out and secure a massive loan right now because we're not going to need it for several months anyway. So why pay on it? What you could though do is if, like Meredith said, let's say you don't want to deplete cash reserves right now getting started. And if we wrote $20,000 in checks out of any of our accounts, we'd notice it. If you don't want to do that, you can always use a HELOC and use the dirt under the ground and write checks against that and keep your cash reserves safe. I mean, there's a whole bunch of different ways we can do this.
Yeah.
All right. Well, that is actually the end of my segment there. Now that we've gone through all those clearances, bam, we've got building permits in hand and we are ready to execute construction. And man, we are fast. We typically start our projects about 2 weeks after getting permits in hand. And if you're using AD Research Center for construction, we've got your contractor lined up, ready to rock and roll. And that's because if we're working through the entire planning process, we'll keep an eye on how your plans are progressing and we'll get an idea of when they're going to be ready with the contractor.
Let me say something.
I have a question in the chat.
What, Vic?
I just posted it.
Oh, sorry, I'm in a different screen.
Let's address the questions at the end. So because there was something that we wanted to talk about with regard to plans and permits. And it's relative to our business model at ADU Resource Center. So why would somebody use ADU Resource Center instead of just somebody off the street doing plans? Well, you can see that the comprehensive approach we take is a responsible approach. I cannot tell you how many times we get people call us and say, I started a project, I'm stalled out, this guy can't do this guy can't do that. And then all of a sudden they call us and say, can we fix it? Well, they have to actually forfeit the project with the city legally before we can intervene. So we can't just take over and take the baton as a handoff. They have to actually forfeit and decline, say, I forfeit any responsibility on this process. What we're trying to say is you can go out and chase price all you want, but I doubt that anybody is going to do the service that we do. And is it worth more? Yeah, probably 10% more. It's worth every dime. But what I would say is that just by the webinar things that we're providing, look at the comprehensive and responsible approach we're taking. I mean, this is the most precious asset you have is your home, and you're expanding on the property profile by adding square footage. It could be a fun experience or it could be a living nightmare. And I sometimes blame the customers if it's a nightmare because you're chasing a naive dream because you're trying to buy it like a car. I'm going to go with the cheapest person, the cheapest price, but they can't do what we do. And so you don't get what you think you're going to get. And then there's where the negative experience comes from. Why does ADU Resource Center have a different model? Our designers work in tandem with the contractor. So rather than you do it your way and piecemeal it out and you go out and find a draftsman, then an architect, then a permit expediter, then somebody to do the construction. There's all these moving parts. There's many ways to drop the baton. So the handoff could be awkward at best. And in most cases, they have to reinterpret the spirit of the project and it gets lost. And that's where people go, this is not what I wanted. Well, this is wrong. Our contractors are patiently working with the designers while we're getting started, waiting their turn to talk to you, but they are contributing to the design. So not only are they familiar with the design, they probably had a hand and made a few suggestions. So when the plans are coming down the pike, they're already familiar with the project because they helped design it with the architect. The other thing is they can now mobilize quicker. So rather than wait for the final plans to come and then you hand it to a contractor and he says, well, I'm a little busy. It might be a couple of months before I get around to it because I got other jobs to finish. We have the network and the resources. So we have 10 architects on staff and we have 25 licensed ADU contractors that we work with. 4 are internal and the other ones are there for helping hands when we get bottlenecked. With over 300 plus projects, there's a chance that we can get bottlenecked. Rather than delay your project, we've already vetted these contractors. They're working in Greater Los Angeles, Orange County, San Diego.
Riverside and San Bernardino. So we're ready to go. We can mobilize quicker because we already know what the plans look like. We know what they're going to be approved. We don't need to wait for the in-hand delivery like other contractors do. So the value of ADU Resource Center is the contractors are working in tandem with our design team to make sure that the project, that we capture the entire spirit of what you want in your project.
Don't forget about the ADU specialists too. The folks that come out and meet you like me will also be working with you throughout the entire project. That means that you have one person to tell your entire story to, and we make sure that everybody along the line in the team all knows exactly who you are, what you want, and how to execute your project.
Well, that was going to be my segue into my bit for tonight, but I'm going to shine a light on something. Let's just kind of quickly review on what we've learned so far. So if we look in terms of, let me widen this up. Okay. So remember, we're working backwards. We started off with Sean. He showed us what the completed project looks like because that's the fun stuff. Why save that for the ending? We went through some financial strategies, which you can book a private with Meredith, and she'll decide what is the best and probably most logical type of loan. Maybe even a debt consolidation to get, as long as you're going to go to the well, get a few monkeys off your back, consolidate some things, and get rid of some big payments if you can, because the dirt under the ground grows back at an alarming rate, and it's worth it. And the underwriters that are going to approve the loan will appreciate it. Michael covered the designing and the permitting process. So now let's go back to the starting point, which is the start line. How does one get started? How do we determine what is the best possible ADU project for us? So I'm going to share a screen and let's just kind of look and see if we can figure this out together, because I think personally, this is my favorite part of it. And I think customers are going to be pretty surprised when they see how easy it could be. So I personally like to start off with a video call. I can call you on the phone and say, hey, how you doing? Tell me about your project. But in most cases, you're wanting to ask me questions. You're asking me, what is the best product for my my yard? And it's going to be based on the yard. So let's just kind of take a little stroll through how we do things here. First thing we're going to do is we're going to look for the feasibility. Is it possible to do what you want to do? So do I have options? Do I have more than one choice? And in most cases, every property has at least 3, sometimes 5 or 6. Is the scope of work, what can it look like? Can you describe to me what it can, or visualize what I might expect to see? Yes, we can do all of that on a video call. So I'm going to tell you what I did when I made this. I swear that this is for real. I took Google Earth and I just zoomed in at, I didn't pick the address. I didn't do anything. I found this house. I just zoomed in and I said, the very first property I see, I'm going to use as a guinea pig. And this is it. So if you look at the exterior, it's a very unassuming property. It looks like it's very, very, it looks like probably turn of the century, not turn of the century, but mid-century Los Angeles. But it looks like it's got a very, very quaint looking main house and front yard. But let's take a little look and see that you'd be surprised what we can do with the most quaint properties. So looking from the Google satellite, which is the tool I like to use, I can see there's got to be at least five different options that we can do here. So if I'm looking at it, I can see the garage, which looks like, all right, there's a possibility, there's an option. I can take the garage and turn it into an ADU. I can even expand it, push a wall out a little bit to make it a little bit larger as possible. Looks like the backyard will accommodate it. I can do a detached ADU in one of the corners over here. Looks like I have some space. If the client or the homeowner says, look, I'd like to maintain some of that backyard if I can, is there any other way we can build it without just gobbling up all the yard? Yeah, I can do a detached or an attached ADU, which means I just touch, we don't have to connect, but I could just touch the main house. And finally, if we said, I want to maintain all of the yard, is there anything I can do? Yeah, you can build on top of the garage, build a second story. So
The presentation that I want to share with you is, let's just take a quick stroll through what a day in the life of Michael is, what he and I do, and some of our ADU specialists. When we meet with you, we start with a computer and we'll just say, okay, let's look at the possibilities. So the first possibility is, let's measure the garage. The garage measures 18 by 18, so it's 360 square feet. So now we know what we got. I can take that, I can make a studio ADU out of that, and a studio is simply a 4-corner kitchen, bedroom, bathroom, and living room. And it's an open concept with only one wall, and that's for the bathroom. This is an example of what one of the floor plans could look like. You could not believe what we can take a typical garage and turn it into an apartment. You go, my God, I can't believe. Well, like that Los Angeles studio floor plan, it's incredible. When you look at it, you go, this was one time a garage. You got to be joking. It's fabulous.
We have some 360 square foot garage conversion ADUs where we've even been able to fit a bedroom in it too, have an independent bedroom. Yeah, so lots of solutions for garage conversions.
Right. Okay, so can you visualize it? So imagine that this is the way the floor plan lays out. So we can almost see coming down the driveway, if this was going to be for family or even a tenant that's going to live there. Okay, the entrance is right there. We can imagine that it's going to go right there. Yeah, we can see this could work out real slick. This would be great. Let's talk about what else we can do. So when we look at this, we say, wait a second, there's another opportunity. We can create a courtyard. We can do more than just build the ADU. So if we said, oh, here's another different variation of a floor plan. There's the third variation. So these are studios. These are very, very popular floor plans that we take garages and we convert them into dwellings, and they're just fabulous. There's a good look at Mike Vitito inside an ADU. This is kind of what they look like. They're a custom home. This is not a Home Depot shed, if that's what you're thinking. This is a custom home, and they look terrific inside. So getting back to that ADU, what if we propose that, look, let's save a little bit of space behind this garage and build a patio. So now the tenant that may be living in there, they has a little bit of a courtyard. So what did we do? We extended this living space. So we have 360 square feet interior, and we might even have another 250 square feet over here. So our overall square footage is quite large, and that will help yield a higher rent if you have a private courtyard where they can go outside and enjoy it, which sometimes an apartment doesn't offer. If you create a little courtyard like this for a place where they have their own private retreat, it'll pay you dividends. Not only is it good to have for the property and resell, but the tenant will love it and they will be happy and they'll stay there forever. What about privacy barriers? If we wanted to create a way where we can section off the backyard so the main house still has access to the backyard, yet the tenant going in the front door, they have their own private. This is just master planning. So we just decide what is the best place to section off by putting a privacy barrier. Privacy barriers could be decorative. They don't have to be an eyesore. We can put vinyl fencing. There's a number of different materials we can use, even living growing hedges. And if we put a flower bed or a shrubbery right next to it, we can make it beautified. If you said, look, I don't like all that, I'd rather have just a growing hedge. That's okay. You can use growing hedges as well. So that was a garage. What if we said, look, I need more room. That's not big enough. All right, so let's expand this garage a little bit. Let's move a wall out and push it out a little bit. Okay. I think if you said, look, is there any way I can get a 1-bedroom rather than a studio? Sure. I think what we probably would want to do is add enough square footage to create 500 square feet. And here's why. We'll look at it at the floor plan and what happens when we do add that extra square footage. All we need to do is just push the wall out a little bit and we have enough space to create what we want. We can still maintain the privacy barrier and the patio as we did before. But now what we've done is we've opened up the floor plan. So now we have a private wall here. So when you walk in, the bed's not exposed. It's not there and you don't have to see it. So I don't know how I made that little drawing on there. Did you do that? Huh? Okay.
Yeah.
So anyway, as we see, when we open up the floor plan, our world opens up. We have a lot more livability. The kitchen's bigger, the living room's bigger, and everything has its dedicated space. And it just looks like it's a lot more livable. So as the square footage grows, the opportunities to do things just open up, and they look much, much more residential. Kitchens and countertops and everything, we can use fancy materials, we can use basic. It doesn't really make any difference. It doesn't matter. Okay, so now, can you visualize it? So if we were walking in this ADU, you can almost imagine walking into this entrance off to the right. And we could say, yeah, I could see walking right in there and then walking right out to the backyard patio. All right. That is an expansion, but it was a small expansion. If you said, look, I really need 2 bedrooms, I need bigger space. All right, so let's expand it farther. I can do a number of different things. I can expand the living space up to 1,200 square feet. Most cities approve up to 1,200 square feet for an ADU. So look at the possibilities now. I can do the same thing we did before. I can expand, make an L shape. This is just an L shape ADU. I still have a private patio. I now change the privacy barrier so that the tenant has an entrance over there. The main house still has a patio or a grass over there, but look what we've done to the square footage. And this will bring a ton of money. If we have 1,200 square foot inside, and you got to have at least 400 square foot outside. I mean, there's 1,600 square foot of livability. That's going to bring $3,500 to $4,000 a month, depending upon the zip code that you live in. And it's for life, as long as you own the property. As we build on bigger floor plans, we're able to do a lot more creative things, as you can see. So our architect team, they are experts at taking whatever space you have, and we'll figure out the best use of space. If you have little conditions that you said, I got to have this, I got to have that. All the walls, windows, and doors are to be determined. These templates are just for inspiration. These floor plans were projects that we built for clients, but it's not to say that that window has to go there. The door doesn't have to go there. They can go anywhere. The walls can be expanded. We can make them larger or smaller. And there's no extra charge for custom editing. So when we're designing for you, we're designing, and we can do anything that you need. Here's an example of what an interior might look like with an L shape. And as you can see, this is not a Home Depot shed. This is a house. This is a custom house. This is going to add value to your home. You're expanding the property profile of your main house. You're just building another house out there. Okay. Everything about it looks fantastic. Even if it's just for you or for your mom and dad, or maybe your daughter wants to come live back again, and her old bedroom inside the house is now a sewing room. You don't want to give it up. Guess what? She'd rather live out here anyway. So it's not a bad thing. So now we've covered the garage. We've covered the garage expansion on a small scale. We've covered the garage expansion on a little bit larger scale. What if we said, I want to do detached, and let's take this corner over here. I want to keep the garage. I need it for parking my cars, and I got some stuff in there. So I don't want to forfeit the garage, but I got all this space. What can I do with it? Well, let's take a look. So I can take a little segment of it. The only thing we have to be mindful of is I have to be 4 feet away on the setbacks on the property line, and I have to be 10 feet away from structures. So as you can see, I'm 10 feet away from the garage. I'm 10 feet away from the closest point on the main house and 4 feet away. And I've managed to get 800 square feet. The customer says, is that the biggest I can get? It is if you want to do detached. Yes, it is. So now what we've done is we've preserved the garage. We've preserved the space around it so that everything can be intact, but we're limited on what we can do, but we can certainly do it. And I can do a 2-story out there up to 1,200 square foot. So it's not relegated to only 800 square feet, but it would be on the lower level. Okay. Again, we go back to the master planning. What if we wanted to use extra space and improve that 800 square foot? I have at least 500 or 600 square foot of patio out there inside this privacy barrier. So you add that to the internal square footage. This is a massive property, and it's going to bring a lot of money. And it's just another way of designing. This is an example of what we might see inside. So in this case, we have two bathrooms and 2 bedrooms. One of them is a master suite, which is over to the right. The one on the left is a community bathroom or a shared bathroom. There's nothing to say that I couldn't put a Jack and Jill door in there, a sliding door, a pocket door, so that they can get access to it as well. I want to make notice that we have an island opportunity in here. So there's, as you know, there's kitchen storage on this side. It's an external countertop and a buffet serving area as well as an eating area. If you said, look, I really don't want a freestanding dinette and an island, I'll take one or the other, you can, or you can put the formal dining room over here. We've deliberately left this space and this space open. This could be for a laundry area. This could be for a sliding glass door, French doors going out to a patio or something like that. The point is that we've already anticipated that many clients are going to have needs, and we're happy to add that. So this is one possibility. This floor plan that we were looking at in Los Angeles, this is kind of this, they took from this template and they sort of modified it and edited it a little bit. But yeah, basically it's a 2-bedroom, 2-bath with an open concept, a community area in the middle. And we saw what that looks like, and it turned out pretty nice. But that's one of our more popular floor plans. We've done a number of them. They turned out great. So the idea is, can you visualize it? When we get started, it's very important that we do something along these lines where you can visualize, so you can kind of understand what your property, what is the best approach for your property. Attached off the main house. So if we said, look, I need more space. I want to keep the garage. I don't want to use the garage, but 800 square foot's not enough, and the 2-story is too expensive. What else can I do? You can do an attached off the main house. So here's what it might look like. You say, okay, if I touch the house, I don't have to connect. I don't have to go in the house. I just have to touch and have a common wall. Well, I just picked up another 900 square feet. And you go, okay, let's see how you're going to do the division on this one. How are you going to work out the privacy barrier and all that other stuff? There's many ways to skin a cat. In this case, we have this wide open area over here on the side of the house, which now makes a perfect entrance. So we bypass this area of the property altogether, put the privacy barrier over here. Now all of this still is maintained on the main house for their usage, but we now have a dedicated private entrance over here with a gate, and they come in, the entrance could be there, and they still have their private patio. So everything can be worked out. It just means that we just have to have the vision and the imagination to create it. This is an example of what a floor plan might look like. If you said, okay, I need 2 bedrooms. Yeah, no problem. I can get a 2-bedroom in there. I even got a little foyer or an entrance. This could be a bathroom. It could be a master suite. There's a number of different things we can do. Idea, again, can you visualize it? This is why we start with a video call, so we can visualize it together and we can look at potential options. Now, the last one might be, say, okay, I don't want any of those things. I want to keep the garage. I want to keep my backyard, but I want an ADU. Can I build one on top of the garage? Sure can. So let's just take this garage and let's just say, okay, I want to build right on top of that, but I still want to park the cars in there. So there's my drawing, Michael. I might have had a few scotches when I was drawing it, but it's a leaner, but the real one won't be leaning that bad. But you can, the idea is that you can visualize, we can build a 2nd story. We do have to reinforce the lower floor. It's called underpinning. We have to make sure that it doesn't cave in, because the garage in its present form was never meant to have a 2nd story. The weight of the 2nd story on top was never meant to go on that garage. So we've got to reinforce the lower floor, and there's a number of ways we can do it. And we do it. So we are perfectly comfortable with taking a garage and putting an ADU up on top. It's a little bit more money because it's labor intensive, going up and down stairs and scaffolding and underpinning and reinforcing the lower floor, but we like to do it. Okay, so where do we begin and how best to plan? The first thing is schedule a video call with us. You can call me directly. You can call Michael, any one of our ADU specialists. And it's pretty simple. We'll do it all online. We'll use Google Earth. We'll look down at the property and we'll kind of figure out what's the best plan of attack for you. Here's some contact information for me, and info at ADU Resources, the company name. If you want to design with any of our team that's on the website or on the webinar tonight, you can. You can even design with me. So there's some contact information. You can do a screenshot and share, And I think that about does it. So we started the race at the finish line and worked backwards, right? Did we cover a lot? So, and construction is a whole other topic. I mean, we could go into that. We'll invite one of our contractors on at
So-
some point.
So one more thing, I know you mentioned we do these screen shares where we go over their projects, but we also offer free on-site consultations where we can come out to your project. We usually like to do that after the video call, but that we also-
You know why, right? Because I can't draw. And when I'm there, I gotta go picture this. So
Yeah.
sometimes you might want to have a little visual before, but we absolutely plan on coming out to the house. We have to before we can confirm what we see in the satellite isn't always exact.
Right.
What else? Vic, we got question and answer time. We got time. How are we doing on time?
I'm gonna copy paste the questions so you see it.
Uh-huh, okay.
So let's-
Meredith, do you have anything? Have you been handling all the questions for us? That's usually what she does. She just rattles them all up. We never have to answer any of them.
That's one question.
Yeah, what are the Glendale permit fees by comparison to LA and Pasadena? Maybe Mike?
Yep, so Glendale is a little bit more expensive than LA, but not by a lot. Pasadena tends to be they're one of the most expensive ones that I've encountered. And there's a trick around that. It's if you're mindful of the size of the ADU that you want to build, you can keep it under 750 square feet. And you get to avoid some city impact fees, additional fees that are generally used for construction of a house would apply over 750 square feet. So in Glendale, they're a little bit more expensive, but not a lot more. No.
What's the next question? By the way, if you have any questions and you're gun shy or you're bashful, you can always email us and we'll try to answer them in private. I did send out a couple of texts to clients that if you had any questions for me, if you didn't post them on the webinar tonight, go back to your telephone. I'm there. Ask me over your telephone instead, and we'll do it privately tomorrow or the next day whenever we connect.
Yep. Also, there's a link in the chat too that will schedule a meeting with one of the ADU consultants, which and we'll discuss your questions privately. We'll probably answer questions that you didn't even know that you had.
Right.
Can I take on this next one? What is the average cost per square foot?
Do you know the
So
answer?
again, yes. Who the hell knows?
All right, let's have it
And
then.
the answer, and
All
I
right.
say that, look, I don't go on site. I don't know what your property looks like. God forbid I lift a hammer, right? My kids go screaming. But the answer is that that's actually not a good way to judge ADUs. Because it totally depends on the situation. And ironically, the smaller you get, it's not the extra cost of an extra square foot of laminate flooring and maybe cement. It's the guts of the house. It's the HVAC, it's the kitchen, it's the bathroom. So I can tell you, generally speaking, I can look at a property and say, yeah, it's probably going to cost you this. I get construction bids across my desk all day long. And they're very straightforward, very honest. It's the cost of labor, cost of material, which are usually dollar for dollar, and a 15% markup. That's it. My greatest concern is about lowball bids. Lowball bids come from people who either don't know what it takes to build an ADU, or somebody who's trying to deliberately lowball you to get the bid. But either way, they are coming back to you and going to smack you for a request for $25,000 or $50,000. And as a banker, that makes me crazy, because the black hole of lending is a half-built ADU. No bank wants to touch that. And at that point, you're talking to loan sharks or you're digging into your retirement. So beware of low bids. That's my warning.
And maybe it's obvious and everybody already knows that you're not an employee of ADU Resource
No,
Center. You're
not at all.
You're a banker. So coming from us, if we were to say something like that, it would sound contrived. It'd sound predictable, right? But
don't
you're a
get referrals.
neutral party saying that because I think that you see quite a lot of that out there. And for you to go out and lend money and be short on a project and it can't get completed, I mean, that's got to be the worst nightmare of all, right?
Oh, yeah. I see people all the time who know a guy. I have one client who knew a commercial contractor. They built the whole thing. And starting with the foundation, it was built to commercial codes, not residential codes. They're having to tear the entire thing down, and I can't lend to them. It's a horrible situation. Beware.
Yeah.
Work with a professional.
Yeah, you're not buying a car. There's no factory for ADUs. They don't come down an assembly line. They're not all the same. So trying to say, well, I got 5 bids and this guy's the lowest, so I'm going to go with them. Go right ahead. But you may have a nightmare on your hands and you have no one to blame but yourself because you have to use common sense. Don't be naive. Don't be selectively naive just because you want to hear what you want to hear. They'll tell you what you want to hear, but it doesn't mean they can do what you are hoping they can do. Okay.
Vic, I don't see any additional questions, but maybe they were privately sent to
There's
you.
one last.
But the answer to the average cost per square foot is, let's talk about it. I want to see what your project looks like, and I can give you an idea of how much what your goal will cost when it comes time for construction. Yes, we can answer that, but it's really difficult to answer it in a vague sense. And as much as it would be easy to answer, this is how much it costs per square foot. The reality is that's not how prices are.
I'll tell you how I do it and you tell me how you do it, right? So I don't give out generic formulas. That's the kiss of death, because then they're going to hold me to it. And if I was too high, then I'm a bum. If I'm too low, then I made a mistake. And then I got to crawl out of the hole. So I think looking at the property, evaluating the scope of work. And as you can see, we had 6 different options on that one property. That means there could be 6 different prices. How do we know which one's the right one? Shouldn't we take a mindful and responsible approach rather than me blurt something out willy-nilly? Shouldn't we say, let's specifically look at your property so we know exactly what option, which direction are we doing a garage conversion? Are we doing a second story? We doing a detached, an attached? They're all going to be different pricing, for God's sakes. Let's not guess, let's be exact. So I have this saying, let's measure twice, cut once, okay? If you just want to go willy-nilly, I don't know that we're the company for you. I don't know, but good luck to you. Good luck to you.
Yeah. And like I said, that's his strategy. One of the things that I like to do is I like to compare it to other projects that are recently under construction. What I'll do is I'll say, hey, right now, as we're getting started, is not the time for construction. We've got about 6 to 9 months before construction commences. And right now the market is incredibly volatile. I would be doing you a disservice if I was going to get you all worked up over a particular price. It could go up or it could go down. Right. So.
And what about the design? We don't even know what the final design is going to be. Once they finish designing, the project grows, right?
Exactly. So
Yeah, no contractor can bid honestly without a design. I mean, and I see these, sorry, I get a little pissy on this because I see these construction bids that are on the back of a napkin. It's like, oh yeah, we'll build you a kitchen, we'll build you a floor. Well, is that floor like plywood or is it Italian marble? Because there's a huge difference. And with our very specific renovation loans, our underwriters actually require us now to specify how many cabinets are in the kitchen, because the client's thinking a luxury kitchen and the contractor's thinking a Home Depot special, right? So it's very specific to the design. You can't know until you see that design.
I will say this, we'll work with any budget. We have 3 tiers, basic, middle of the road, and highline. We're never going to go just basic or super highline unless the client tells us. By default, we're almost always middle unless we're told otherwise, right? So the client is going to tell us, these are the finishes that I like. Look at my home. Let's get something worthy of my neighborhood. And each neighborhood's a little bit different. And so we're going to be flexible, but I think just being if you don't know what questions to ask, and the only thing you have to ask is how much is it going to cost? I mean, I don't know that that's where you should start. Let's maybe look at the scope of work first, and then let's talk about what your target budget is. Maybe we can work backwards and figure out how to make it fit.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was
Well,
gonna say.
that's what I think is so important, right? And that's where the lending comes in, even if you do the loan later, because you want to build to what you're qualified for, what your budget is. And then, you know, you figure out what your budget is first, and then you build to that, right? And you might add on later on when you've got more money, but why would you spend 20, 30, 40,000 in permits when you don't know if you're qualified to build that big
Good
of a
point.
project?
Good point.
And just with today's examples, some of them had high ceilings, some had vaulted ceilings, some had ducted mini splits, some didn't. Some had
More extensive landscaping.
Yeah,
Yeah.
some had
Some had a bigger kitchen.
like there was a 600 square foot unit with 2 bedrooms, 2 baths. A lot of times that could be one bedroom, 1 bath. We don't know that initially until we design. How many windows? Do you want sliding doors? How are the utilities connected? How far do we have to trench? I mean, there's a million variables.
Right.
We're not avoiding the
Yep.
question, guys. It's something that during
No.
our consultation call, we'll be able to have a conversation and get a good idea of what you're interested in, and we'll be able to give you a price estimate, something that you can build a budget off of. I just don't want to go and blurt out numbers because it's very unique to your project.
How much does your consultation call cost?
Zero.
Yeah, mine is zero. So you want to run those numbers collaboratively up front at $0 costs before you start. And by the way, optimize for rental income, because a lot of people think they need to build a 3-bedroom huge honkin' ADU, when in fact a 1-bedroom actually often has optimal rental income. I call it an ADU duplex. So get your consultations in for free before you start spending a dime.
Right, right. I see a question. 750 square foot in Whittier. Will it avoid extra fees for 2-bedroom, 2-bath? If we're talking about impact fees, 750 is the number. So you just want to be below 750 to avoid any impact fees. Impact fees are municipality fees like school fees and so forth. I should mention though, don't deter going big because you're afraid of impact fees. It's a one-time non-reoccurring fee. And if you say, I gotta have what I gotta have, and it's gotta be over 750, well, then do it. I mean, it's just the cost of building the ADU. Remember, building is cheaper than buying. What would a 750 square foot house in Whittier go for if it was done and you went to go buy one? I know it's going to be $600,000, $700,000, $800,000, right? Building is cheaper than buying, but once it's done, for every dollar you spent on the ADU project, it's going to be worth $3 when you're done. So build it with love, get exactly what you want. Don't worry about it, because you'll thank me later when it's worth a fortune and it's paying like a slot machine because you got a renter in there.
Right.
Vic, is there any other questions? I think maybe we've either typed in all the answers or we lost them, if everybody hung up on us already. Well, listen, I want to say thank you to Meredith for joining us. Always lovely to have you there. You're always an inspiration and a wealth of knowledge. So thank you for coming. Yes,
Thanks,
yes.
guys.
And the crowd goes wild, right?
Thanks, fellas.
Vic, thank you for helping out on the sound and the lighting. Michael, you did a good job, but I got to give you one of these just because I got to push the button anyway. And Shara, thank you for all that you do. All right, so you get that little aspect.
Thank you.
Our next webinar is going to be in June, and it's generally going to be the first week. So I'm not quite sure when that'll be. And I think that depending upon, we have a lot of customers that keep asking for the same material. I don't want to repeat it, but it looks like we're getting a new audience every single time. So maybe June 7th, which is on a Wednesday, the first week in June, we'll look at that. But Do call Meredith, schedule a little free one-on-one time, figure out what your budget and loan options could be. Check in with us if you're, two things. Check in with us if you want to do a free assessment of your video project. But also, we don't forget, we are going to have an open house coming up. I think we're going to have that LA studio open and maybe that 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Not sure if it's going to be this coming Saturday, could be the Saturday after that, but by popular demand, we'll decide whether we do a studio or we do a 2-bedroom, depending upon how many people want to see it. And to do the crowd control, we just need to show it by appointment. So send us a click on the information's chat line on the side, and we'll call you and talk to you about your project and figure out how to get you in there without a big crowd. And I think that's about it. I do want to introduce you to our design team. So we made a closing video, which does a tour, just a tour of our office in Glendale, and shows you the shy people behind the door that you'll eventually get to see, but they're brilliant and they're very, very good. We always encourage people to come down to our offices down here and do the designing in a private conference room. So Vic, if you'll show that video, we'll say goodnight for now, and thanks for coming.
Thank you, everyone.
Okay, we have one last item before we wrap it up for tonight's show. Please stay on 2 more minutes and meet the architectural design team in a short video and tour of our offices in Glendale. We hope you'll subscribe to our monthly webinar as we have new ideas on ADU design tips, value engineering ideas, controlling your construction budget, and listening to new speakers each month to get a variety of advice and recommendations for your own ADU projects. Thanks for coming, and we'll see you next month. Welcome, friends, to ADU Resource Center in beautiful downtown Glendale, California, right on Brand Avenue in the U.S. Bank building, where we have plenty of free parking. Come on up to the 5th floor and say hi to our design team. While we take a short elevator ride up, I'll tell you a little bit about our company and what our services are. ADU Resource Center is a one-stop shop, and that simply means we take care of everything relating to the project. That means anything from architectural designs, structural engineering, Title 24 energy calculations, low-impact development calculations, and permit expediting. The design team is on staff. We do everything on the 5th floor, and as we walk into the building, you'll notice 2 conference tables for our customers so they can come down and sit with us and design and look at the big screen and figure things out together. During peak season, we might have several customers in at the same time, so we offer private rooms so that we can keep privacy and noise down. This is our private conference room with a beautiful view of the San Gabriel Valley Mountains, and what a view. Does it help us design better with inspiration? Oh, you better believe it does. So the next room we're going to go into is the architectural design room, where Santa's little helpers do all their magic. Well, that about wraps up our quick office tour. I hope you enjoyed it. Here's the printer where we print out all your plans. Come on down to ADU Resource and let us help get started on your design today.